Hey everybody, here we are. It's Friday. I don't know what just got. I was trying to show my Hope for Our Times shirt. Look, Hope for Our Times shirt.
You're not trying to show your Hope for Our Times tattoo?
I don't have one of those. Not available in any store, but I get to wear it. Because
not where anybody can see it.
Can you see that? Look, there it is.
No, I'm talking about the tattoo.
Oh, I don't have a tattoo. So guess what?
That's how bad rumors start. Sorry, bro.
James, we hit 100,000 subscribers this week, so I'm excited about that.
Woo-hoo!
So yeah. So you're about ready to pass me up, but hey, I'm excited that we get to be able to do this.
I'll pass you up in 53,000 subscribers, bro. Or 52,000 subscribers later.
You pick up like 5,000 a day. I watch how fast you're going.
5,000 a day, bro. Come on, bro.
You're like lightning. Listen, this is great being able to do this, and we are able to share the gospel, the hope, and the Bible, and the Bible prophecies regarding the second coming of Christ to the whole world because of this. Very thankful for that. James, great having you here. Anything you want to say before we get started? Because I'm going to ask you about the temple. I'm going to ask you about the EU army. I'm going to ask you about Iran. I'm going to ask you about the Taliban government that's formed. So I got a lot of things to ask you. Oh, check this out. NASA detects 1,000th asteroid to come close to Earth. Next major storm, listen to this. Next major solar storm could completely cripple the internet. Interesting. I don't think so, but I have a theory on that if we get to it. Did you hear about this one? This is real. This is disturbing more than coronavirus. Different pandemic potential, brain-destroying virus with 75% death rate is spreading in India. I don't know all the facts on it yet. You know how stuff starts like that? Sounds like the end of the world. And you don't know spreading in India, does that mean it went from 1 people to 2 people? So therefore, they say it doubled? I mean, that's how you can manipulate things. But that stuff is out there. So you have these fear things that are out there, cripple the internet. Another thing not related to coronavirus is going to kill everybody. So we have that. Let's get to what we can know. Man, look at me, I'm yawning. This is not good for me to be yawning. I did not have not much coffee today.
I've been drinking a lot of coffee, but it ain't doing anything for me.
Well, I don't think you need coffee. I think everybody right now is laughing, thinking, James, coffee? I need coffee.
Lord,
if I
good
could,
Lord,
I'd ask
help,
Dave to
good
give
Lord.
me an espresso, but I'll just have to wait. So, okay, so what you got? Temple. What do you want to say before we talk about the temple? Want to say hi to everybody?
Howdy.
Okay, good. Okay, we got that.
Let's get down.
Okay. Second temple period quarry uncovered in Jerusalem. I watched your video this week. I think it was on Monday. And so I watched it. So let's talk about this because the Bible does say there's going to be a temple that's going to be built. So what do you have to say about all this? The quarry that's been found.
Yeah. So this one is kind of significant. Okay. So we'll talk about this for just a second. This one's kind of a big deal. And the reason why it's a big deal is because, let me just back up. First of all, let me tell you where this kind of came from. Anybody who in Israel wants to do any kind of developments, if they want to build anything, they are required to basically do a reasonable amount of excavating before they do it. Now, they do this in hopes of being able to make sure that they're not building on top of anything that's historical before they dig down, especially because it's very important. There's an organization in Israel called the Israel Antiquities Authority that sort of rules this, right? And there's an organization called the Moriah Jerusalem Development Corporation that went to go start a project over there. Now, in the process of doing it, what they did was they uncovered this amazing quarry. Okay, this is from the Second Temple period. This is roughly 2,000 years ago. And what's very unique about this is the fact that this discovery, first of all, let me just tell you a little bit about the discovery, and I'll tell you why it's so important, right? The quarry, only part of which has been excavated, covers approximately 600 square meters, right? But it's probably at least 2 or 3 times that size. Okay, so they're going to expand out. They're going to find it to be 2 or 3 times that size. But what's interesting about this is the massive building blocks that are extracted from it, measured from as big as 1.5 by 2 meters. Okay, so the site provides a clear demonstration of all the phases of quarrying and stone preparation. Now, that's a big deal because what that in essence does is it answers an overwhelming majority of all of the questions that people have had regarding how they built these massive blocks and how they actually broke them off, right? So this is interesting. Let me read a couple of quotes for you because this is really cool, right? Here's the first quote. It says, the large-scale building projects in ancient Jerusalem, such as the Temple Mount, required a vast amount of building materials and the ability to organize and coordinate the quarrying and transportation of thousands of building blocks to the ancient city. This is, by the way, the man who said this is a man named Moran Hagby, who is the excavation director that is doing this project on behalf of the Israel Antiquities Authority, right? He goes on to say, building blocks in various stages of working were discovered in the quarry. For example, listen to this. We uncovered large square blocks of stone about to be detached from the bedrock prior to loading and transporting them into the ancient city. Now, why is that such a big deal? He goes on to say this. He says, for us as archaeologists, this quarry presents a golden opportunity because some of the stones were left in situ in this way. We can copy ancient technologies and experiment with them in order to recreate the processes by which the building stones were quarried. So let me just give you the interpretation of what this means. The significance of this is remarkable because one of the difficulties that they've had is developing this new temple with the authenticity of the period. Now, the biggest barrier that they're running into with respect of authenticity from the period has nothing to do with the red heifers that they've already found or that they've already reproduced with DNA. It has nothing to do with all the instruments that are already done. It has nothing to do with the clothing. It has everything to do with the infrastructure of the temple itself. How was it actually built? How do you move stones that big? It's virtually impossible to do. And how do you hew them? How do you make them as just absolutely accurate as they've been made? And they had no idea how to do that. So by them uncovering this quarry, they've now recognized how that was actually done because they see them in various stages, right? Like this was at the beginning stage. This was at the near the end stage. There's, the one that we just talked about was this big brick that basically was just ready to be broken off, right? And what's cool is they see evidence of how the tools were used. They see the processes. So the idea here is we got to build a temple. And now they don't have anything that stops them from being able to do that.
Yeah, this is just amazing. When I look at this, I'm looking at the picture that accompanies the article that you're looking at. Do you know, is that the quarry itself? Because I'm trying,
yes,
I'm guessing it is. So I'm trying to figure out where it's located in relation to like the Temple Mount.
This is outside of Jerusalem.
I can see
this is just out
in the background.
Yeah, this is just outside of Jerusalem.
I think it said it's north of the old city. I think I read that in the article.
It's called Shai Helvi is the area.
And it's just north of the old city. So that
Correct.
would also fit with the temple being on the Temple Mount, not the city of David, because the city of David is south and it's down the hill from the temple.
Yeah, 100%.
So if you're quarrying from the north, it would make a lot more sense that the temple would be on the Temple Mount.
100%.
Very interesting.
Yeah, 100%. And what I'll do is I'll show you a picture of this for those people that have not been able to see it. It's actually worth showing. Let me bring this up to you so that you can actually see it. This is kind of an important one. Here, let me put this up for you guys. Let me see here. Let me go to this shot right here. That's the site right there at the beginning of that quarry.
Yeah. So,
and you can see the stones that they've got that they've already started the hewing process for.
This is just amazing. I think of the Old Testament where God talks about the quarries and chiseling out of stone the pieces for the temple, and just being reminded how he chisels away at us also, trying to make us fit for his purposes. But you look at this and you think the temple, I mean, there's so many things. Well, Israel is being isolated from the rest of the world. I think that's what's happening right now with Israel. I think the entire world is being moved to the end of the story. So Israel is being isolated. You look, America is being diminished. America is imploding. The EU is rising. Russia is taking over the Mideast. We see everything happening while Israel is being isolated. But while Israel is being isolated, they're discovering all kinds of things in archaeology over there that only confirm more and more of the Bible. And it's happening all the time. And so you look at this and you think, this really is remarkable. And for anybody who's ever been to Jerusalem, you see the stones that are over there. So you start to think back to the stones that you've seen at this quarry. This is one of the places that these stones would have come from. So this is the Second Temple period, you said, right, James? So
Second Temple period. This is Herod.
This is Herod and the time of Jesus. So that's what we're looking at here. So Herod is the one who built that temple, the Second Temple. You look at, I mean, he's the builder. He wasn't down there chiseling. But you look at this and you go, wow, this is really remarkable. And we know that this is just going to motivate more and more of those Jews who live in Israel that want to build the temple. What motivation this must be, saying, hey, we're done with playing this game, that we have no rights to the Temple Mount, that we're not allowed to build there. We're going to build. Have you heard anything from any of our friends over in Israel regarding this yet? I haven't talked to David Tal or anybody about it yet.
Well, I haven't, but you have to keep in mind, these are the types of things that don't get talked about a lot right now, because Israel is being overwhelmed by, I think, the insanity that they're doing right now. I think that they're destroying their tourism industry by these ridiculous mandates, but that's a whole other story. But what is very interesting, and I think what is very unique when you look at this, is the fact that this is the Bible coming to life. This literally, I'm not kidding you, Tom, this is literally the beginning of the building of the third temple.
Yeah, I think this is, I mean, when you start to think about the quarry, and you think this is just really amazing. I think of it like this also, James. When Jesus rode into Jerusalem on Palm Sunday, the people are shouting, Hosanna, and the religious leaders say, hey, tell your people to shut their mouths. Don't be saying Hosanna. And he says, if I tell them to keep their mouths quiet, the rocks will cry out. And what's happening with archaeology, the rocks are crying out. Folks, this to me is true. This is just another sign how close we are to all of these things. God, everything is moving to the end of the story so fast. It's just absolutely unbelievable. And speaking, James, I want to ask you about this. Speaking of Israel making some really bad decisions, which you and I would both agree on. It appears to me they're being isolated. We have this State Department expands Iran team days after Israel asked Biden to abandon nuke talks. So what does America do? Say, no, we're not going to listen to you at all, Israel. We're going to actually come. That looks to me, that's not just abandoning Israel. That's coming against Israel, isn't it?
Oh, bro. Yes, it is. But come on. What are we thinking? Well, what are we saying? The Biden administration has been the most anti-Semitic administration that's existed as of yet. Joe Biden is a demonically inspired man. Okay, can I just tell you that? He is, people say he's an empty shell and he's sort of not acting on his own. You're right. He is. He has demons inside of him, and the demons are driving him. He's a demonic man. That's the reality of it. I don't care what anybody says. How's it working out for you now, Tim Keller, Brian Broderson, Rick Warren, and all you other yahoos that encourage voting for him? How's it working out for you now, Lecrae?
Yeah. So we look at this, I mean, this is literally going against Israel. But a lot of these religious leaders, they believe in replacement theology. So
beyond that.
Yeah.
They're ridiculous.
They're like, as far as they can see, no, the Jews have no right to the land. This is coming from church leaders. The Jews have no right to the land. And then we get something like this bit of news, James, this week. The Department of Justice exploring ways to challenge Texas pro-life law. So again, America goes against Israel. America has, in a sense, abandoned their military, at least over in Afghanistan. You watch what's happening, become very woke. And now the United States government, the feds, are going to challenge the Texas law on abortion?
Yep.
I mean,
100%.
I mean, looking at
what do you expect?
Yeah, well,
bro, what do you expect?
I mean, it just gets more and more evil every day what's happening with the leadership of America. Just more and more every day.
Yep. What do you expect, bro?
Yeah.
What do you expect? It's ridiculous.
Well,
it's absolutely
I tell you
ridiculous.
this much. Yeah, going back to the other bit of information with Iran, with not just abandoning Israel, but coming against Israel with the decisions Biden administration is making with Iran. You turn against Israel like this, I can't help but think of Genesis chapter 12. I'll bless those who bless thee. I will curse those who curse thee. This to me, James, is a curse against Israel that the United States of America has done.
Yeah, you think? I mean, I'm sorry to say this, but it's like, really? I mean, are we even surprised that we're doing this? This was something that we talked about, bro.
No, not
you
surprised.
talked about this. You wrote about this in your book years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised.
Years ago.
Yeah, not surprised, but we're watching the absolute implosion of America and our judgment. We're watching it being fulfilled. These decisions that our leaders are making are not just dumb decisions, they're wicked decisions. Terrible. Okay, so I'm going to move to something else because I really want to talk about the EU. Okay, and the Taliban. Okay, so Taliban government has formed. They invite 6 countries. Who do they invite to the forming of their government? China, Pakistan, Russia, Iran, Qatar, and Turkey to form their government. I'm like, okay, I look at this personally. I'm convinced that what's going on with America was intentional in Afghanistan.
100%. Name those names again, just out of curiosity.
Yeah.
I want to, because I want to write this down for a second. I mean, I know who they are. I just want to make sure I haven't, because I thought I heard Qatar. That one surprises me.
You did.
Well, it shouldn't really surprise me, but let me write that down again.
Ready? China.
Yeah.
Pakistan.
Okay.
Russia.
Okay.
Iran. Qatar, and Turkey.
That's a proxy choice.
Yeah.
That's a proxy choice right there.
Now,
Qatar, how you would say it in Arabic.
Qatar,
That's a proxy choice. That's a proxy choice. And that is not a surprise to me. We'll talk about it. It's just crazy.
Okay, so I look at this. I came across this article by somebody that I read frequently. It says, considering the conditions that have resulted from the political chaos, the so-called, I can't use that word, I'm going to get in trouble. From the political chaos, and now the complete disaster that the Afghanistan withdrawal seems to be producing, it is not difficult to reach the conclusion that the nation has been weighed in the balance and found wanting. That's a play on Daniel. With Daniel, when Babylon is destroyed, right?
Many techa you farson. That's right.
It is being asked in such spiritually attuned quarters whether America is now seeing the handwriting on the wall, also from the same passage in Daniel. While most believe the Afghanistan cut-and-run decision to be terrible error by the commander-in-chief, who is of diminishing mental capacity, a more prophetically specific take piqued my interest. Some geostrategists, former clandestine service types I heard, caused me to think another direction than the mental incapacity slant, which you and I would agree with. These were pointing out that whoever is directing the current American presidential administration is causing the diminished mentality matter, is using the diminished mentality matter as a ruse, which you and I have also talked about. In actuality, these say what is happening is the global reset being carried out. Totally intentional. With Afghanistan, so when we hear about these 6 countries with Taliban, this is all, it's this plan. It's all part 100%. Of this, the whole thing is.
100%. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is actually what's going on. This is what they're talking about. This is what they're admitting. This is what they're actually saying. There's no conspiracy here. It's right in front of our faces. It's being put out right under our noses.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, now with that, so the EU defense minister, I think it was, said last week, I think it was on Friday, could have even, maybe a Sunday. It might have been Sunday. So he said that the EU now needs to, with everything that's going on in Afghanistan, now needs to rise up. The American military can't be counted on, which that's why Saudi Arabia has entered into this agreement with Russia. So therefore, the EU needs to rise up a strong army that can police the entire globe. The whole globe. Yeah.
Bro, did they name any nations? What are the nations that are involved in the development of this army? Can you name some of the nations that they in this article? That
No,
they
it
about
wasn't.
them?
They didn't name any nations. It was, okay, this is where we're at now. Oh, it said something like, and we believe we can start this by November. So so we're going to start hearing a lot more. Isn't it interesting? Everything is starting in just October, November. I'm hearing a lot of things by November 1st. A whole lot of things by November 1st.
Let me ask you. Can I ask you this question?
Yeah.
What is the only nation that has influence over or affects what happens in the EU that is literally touching every country in the Middle East?
That's touching every country that has influence over the
EU.
Over the EU. That's touching every country. What do you mean by touching? You mean physical boundaries, or do you mean
in talking to, interacting with
Russia?
Moving. Yep.
Yeah. So you're saying Russia is dictating to the EU on building an army, or do you think the EU is saying we got to rise up because we see Russia building? What do you think it is?
I think it's Russia that is under that is literally influencing it all.
Okay.
And they're doing it through their proxies.
So
the nations that are in the EU, the member nations of the EU, many of those nations, a good majority of those nations are heavily, and when I say heavily, they are heavily influenced by Russia. Make no mistake about it. Make no mistake about it. Hey, Johnny. Sorry about that.
Okay.
A little bit of off-screen action there.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. Okay, look, just do, if you ever have a chance, just do a member nation search of the EU, right? So just look up member nations of EU. Matter of fact, I'm going to do it right now, and I'm going to see what the going is. Okay, here we go. All right. So if you go look at this, I'm going to see if I can put this up on the screen. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. Let's look at some of these names that are here. Okay. Tell me, are any of these people influenced by Russia? And you know the answer is going to be like yes on a whole grip of them, right? Let's go of this, right? Austria, Belgium, Bulgaria, Croatia, Cyprus, Czechia, Denmark, Estonia, Finland, France, Germany, Greece, Hungary, Ireland, Italy, Latvia, Lithuania, Luxembourg, Malta, the Netherlands, Poland, Portugal, Romania, Slovakia, Slovenia, Spain, and Sweden. How many of those nations would you suppose are heavily influenced by Russia? And here's the question that I need to ask. How many of them are heavily influenced by Russia that are no longer being affected by the United States of America as a result of its diminishing power?
Oh, pretty much across the board.
Yep.
So, but let me ask you this. Okay, so what you see is, I mean, we are watching, I mean, it was not long ago, James, when people, I mean, I was receiving emails 4 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, with people saying, listen, the Antichrist, when he comes, he's going to come out of the U.S. because he's going to have the massive military. We know the Antichrist, his God is the God of forces or fortresses. Daniel tells us that. So therefore, military. Okay, I agree with the military. But I've said repeatedly, the U.S. military will not be it. This military will rise out of Europe. And,
100%.
And so when I hear these things, and now people can see it. The U.S. military had to collapse, which we are watching. I feel horrible for people that you and I know. They just put their sons and daughters just enrolled in the military, or they're enrolling, and you look, you go, it's very sad to see. But it affects our entire country. It affects our stage where we are on the international playing field. We're not there. How long have you and I said, and Don and some others who teach accurate Bible prophecy, America is not going to be this superpower? And now we're looking, nobody, Europe, the European Union saying, bye-bye, thank you, Joe Biden, Russia and everybody. Now the Mideastern countries, even Israel literally not just abandoned, but now cursed by the United States of America. We're toast. We're gone.
Completely toast.
But when I look at it, you talk about Russia and their influence over Europe. At the same time, Russia's going to invade Israel, Ezekiel chapter 38 war. But I believe Europe is going to rise up. They're going to rise up with some kind of an army that will be powerful because the Antichrist is going to have it. He's going to have control on this. And I'm also thinking that countries are going to be pouring in their billions. It's really a globalist thing. So the global tax dollars are going to be going into this military too. Somebody has to police this global system, right?
Yep. And by the way, the diminishing, and some of this might be a little graphic, but I think that this is, I want to be able to play a little news clip for you of Jesse Kelly basically going completely scorch earth on Biden. But the reason why I want to play this video is to show you how incredibly common this is becoming. This is becoming commonplace right now amongst people in the United States of America because the current president is not respected. He's not respected. There's no respect for him. And I'm going to go somewhere with this, but let me just hear you play this. I want you to hear this. Listen to what he says. It's about 16, 17 seconds, but take a listen to this real quick.
Tucker, they put Joe Biden in there on purpose. You remember they cleared out the field to put in this old man who's clearly half functional. Instead of dependable, we got depends in the White House. The guy has no idea what he's doing, and the backup plan is Kamala Harris, who quite literally laid down to get the job. Tucker, they put Joe.
I mean, it's just you. It's just, but again, that. And 16 seconds, and this is the sentiment of literally the whole world.
Yeah, it is, and they can all see it. So this is totally intentional. The president.
By the way,
yeah,
I was saving that clip for you. I was going to play it on our live show, and I said, no, we'll play it for the Friday show.
Yeah, I mean, that guy says what anybody that is paying attention, you have to admit. So we know this is intentional. These globalists have planned the end of America.
100%.
Remember last week, and I talked about it again on Sunday night, we were talking about the Soviet defector, 1984, in the interview. He talked about the four things to do to collapse a nation.
Oh, yes.
Demoralize.
Brilliant.
Destabilize. Yep. Bring in a crisis, and then you normalize. You normalize with the tanks. All this is happening in America. Our crisis right now is huge, and Joe Biden is our crisis.
Yep.
And they're just going to use him to continue to crash everything. So then they can come in and say, now it's normalized, now that the EU is in charge of everything. Stretching this.
100%. 100%. And it's a direction that we are moving in there harder and faster and harder and faster than we ever have before. And the open doors for the kind of influence to lay in. This thing that we're talking about, the EU setting up their own kind of army. Let me give you a little bit of analysis on this, right? They're talking about wanting to set up their own army to be able to deal with the problems that they find in Afghanistan. Why? Because many members of the EU, including people that are directly affected by their relationships to those members and aren't necessarily members, are being dramatically affected by the willful demonstration of incompetence. That's what I like to call it, the willful demonstration of incompetence in Afghanistan. So now they're going to have to go in there. They're going to have to fix some things. They're going to have to bring some stability into the region. I would imagine that a good majority of the globalists refuse to and will not recognize an organization like the Taliban, a terrorist organization, as a legitimate nation because they don't play nice with globalists. They believe in total domination, just like the Communist Party does, the Chinese Communist Party, and just like many other individuals do. At least Russia purports to be somebody that will play nice with the globalists, even though we know darn well that won't be the case. So the thing that's interesting is the EU does not have the ability to be able to take their army, whatever, no matter how big it is. It could be the most elite soldiers from each and every single nation that they assemble, and they're still not going to be able to unilaterally, as an organization, go into Afghanistan and affect any kind of change. And the reason why they're not going to be able to do that is because they have three main people in the mix that are going to block them from doing that, right? You have Russia, you have Turkey, and you have China, all of whom have embassies in Kabul, all of which are very much recognized and acknowledged by the Taliban and even respected by the Taliban. But there's one of those organizations more than any other organization that has the utmost respect of the Taliban, and that is Russia. And here's the thing. You cannot take an organization of Europeans and bring them into Afghanistan to effect some kind of a peaceful resolution with a strong hand of force unless you have the okay and the waving hand of a person who has a heavy influence in all of the Middle East, right? When you gave me this list of nations that came up earlier, right? You said China, Pakistan, Russia, Iran, Qatar, and Turkey. Listen, Qatar is acting as a proxy of Saudi Arabia. I can promise you that. The royal family had something to do with that. Turkey's coming along for the ride at the permission of Russia. Iran is coming along for the ride because Iran is basically saying, we'll do whatever you tell us to do, Russia, simply because we know we're going to find the greatest point of advantage. And Pakistan is doing it because Pakistan has a very, very serious problem, not only, believe it or not, potentially with China, but they also have some serious problems with a few other nations in that region. So particularly India, right? There's a big problem with India. Now, with a nation as big as India, the only way you're going to defeat that problem is by getting all of these people involved. And the only person that has the skill set, so to speak, to be able to lead all of these nations working in conglomeration with one another is the only one who's actually talked to all of these nations and worked up deals with all of these nations. And that's Russia.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, with Russia, that's fantastic analysis. So when you see these 6 countries in Afghanistan, Russia and China are not going to, they both want to be it, right?
Well, yes and no. China wants to be it for simple denomination. I said domination, and then I said denomination to correct myself. Wow, that's sleep deprivation for you. No, China wants to do it for total domination, but China's not thinking strategically about it, right? China wants to be in there because they want to have their foot in or on the ground so that they can somehow and in some way influence some metric as it relates to their military. I think the number one reason why China has the most significant interest right now in Afghanistan has nothing to do with any of the things people would think about. It doesn't have anything to do with natural resources. Forget that. There's no way you're going to pull anything of any significance unless you're looking for poppy seed, right? Unless you're looking to jump into the heroin business, right? But it has nothing to do with that. The one resource that China wants more than any other nation, literally more than any other nation, and has a very specific interest in being able to develop, is something that they can only get from Afghanistan. And by the way, the one nation that the Taliban can get the most money out of more than any other nation for what the thing that China has is the Taliban. And what is it? It is U.S. military assets. It is weapons that they can take. It is the helicopters. It's the guns. It's the night vision stuff. It's all of the technology that we've developed. China is going to get on the take on that one. They're going to take all of that and they're going to start to take it apart, do what they do best, reverse engineer everything, and try to make something that is similar. They're not going to be able to do as good, but that's exactly why China's interest is in there. But the thing is, that's not a long game goal. That is not, listen, China wants whatever they can get their hands on right now so they can do the things that they're doing right now. The long-term goal, the goal that's the most significant, the one that we all need to be worried about, that's if we're invested in this world, is Putin's goal. Because Putin, like the Democrats and the leftists, are in it for the long game. They're patient and they know that they're in it for the time. So Putin has invested while everybody went silent, and this is very interesting when you think about it. When Obama went silent, because it really started more with Bush Jr. Bush Jr. kind of went silent. Then Obama went brutally silent, and he went beyond brutally silent. He got in bed with Putin, and we have evidence of it. We have videotape of him going around to one of Putin's top guys saying, hey, listen, can you tell Vladimir to wait until my election, then I'll be able to take care of whatever he wants. You know, we saw that, right? So Biden went eerily silent in these areas. He went eerily silent in Syria. He went eerily silent in in Israel. As a matter of fact, he came against Israel. He was a key figure in allowing Hamas to take over that portion of the Strip. I mean, you just start looking. If it wasn't for Biden, if it wasn't for Obama, then you would not have the kind of power base that you see with Hezbollah in the north near Beirut. You wouldn't see any of that. Syria would not be diminished to the capacity it's been diminished to, and most definitely Russia would not be in the places that they're in right now. As a matter of fact, I'd be willing to say that if it wasn't for the actions of Obama, then it would not have been so easy for Putin to get so close to Khomeini and all of the leaders that were there in Iran. So as a result of all of it, the relationship that Bibi Netanyahu with Russia was based on the idea of you keep your friends close, you keep your enemies closer. And that's exactly kind of the mindset that had happened. So while all of this was going on, while all of this was manifesting, then there was a massive speed bump in the road, and it was a big one, right? And that was the Trump administration. That took away from a lot of what was going on. However, here's a blind spot that our president had at the time, and that was the fact that he said, listen, you do anything to us, we are going to bomb the living crap out of all of you. I don't care if you're Russia. I don't care who you are. We're just going to bomb the snot out of all of you. And everybody listened. They respected him. They knew that he had the ability to be able to do it. But in the name of saying we only care about the interests of the United States, he told Putin, do what you got to do. He kind of said that, yeah, he did. Right? But he did it from a position of strength. He did it from a position of strength. He didn't do it from a position of weakness like Biden has. And of course, like Obama and Bush Jr. Don't even get me. Bush Jr. was one of the worst things that ever happened in this country. That's a whole other thing, because a lot of the post-game analysis on that really opens up the door to show just how dark the man actually was. But the bottom line is, which, by the way, his wife, Laura Bush, everybody calls her a classy lady. I called her that for a long time until I found out that she was a huge proponent of pro-abortion. She actually was an activist for pro-abortion causes, which is something a lot of people don't even know. Anyway, all that to say, Putin was in the long game. And all the things you're beginning to see Russia begin to reap has been the result of a long-term sowing that's been going on, right? And this is all related to what the Bible tells us would eventually happen. So none of us should be surprised. And by the way, can I make one other statement?
Yeah.
The presence of Qatar in the region, right, for this particular purpose, especially when we're talking about interests related to Afghanistan, is all related to the relationship that's been established between Saudi Arabia and Russia.
That's fantastic.
The agreement between Saudi Arabia and Russia, right?
Yeah. That just happened a couple of weeks ago. It was, I mean, you look, no longer is it Saudi Arabia wanting U.S. weapons. Is Saudi Arabia working with Russia for weapons? This is just amazing to look at this. And thinking back many years, James, when we started talking about when Russia moved into Syria, Russia never went away. Never went away. They locked down there, never left. And guess what? They are taking over everything. So
100%.
Yeah. Hey, listen, we're out of time. We've gone almost 40 minutes.
This was a good talk, too. This is a good one.
That was great analysis. That was just fantastic. You have any friends, listen, for anybody out there, you have friends or acquaintances that want to know what's really going on, send them this video. Like it, share it, send it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You need to get it out there, because this really helps us to understand the reality of what's happening. The globalists are making their move, ultimately, is what's taking place. All these different pieces of the chess, the chess pieces are being made. Satan knows exactly what he's doing. He's manipulating people. There's some real smart people out there that are very evil. They're doing everything they can to bring about their plan. And it's just incredible to sit here and watch everything develop. It is absolutely incredible. We're 100%. Moving so fast through the last days. Okay, I know you talked a little bit already, but do you have any final words for everybody?
You listen, it's kind of the same thing that I've been saying from the very beginning. Guys, we got to open up our eyes. Jesus is coming soon. If you can't look around the world right now and see the fact that he's coming soon, listen, I got nothing to say, because there is nothing else to say. He's coming back soon. Let's wake up, you guys.
Amen. James, thank you very much for today. I know you're a very busy man. You're awesome. Keep up the great work. You're very inspiring. You get me going. And that was such good analysis. I'm going to be re-listening to this a couple of times. I just absolutely loved it. That was great. Thank you, sir.
Love you, bro. 100,000 subscribers. Congratulations to everybody subscribing to Hope for Our Times.
Yes, thank you, everybody, for your subscribing. It's free in case you haven't done it yet. absolutely free, but it's great to know that the word is getting out there, that we're able to proclaim. We'll take advantage of every single thing that we can to get the message out there. Listen, God bless you, everybody. We hope you have a great weekend. Remember, Jesus is going to call us home. Be ready and be about our Father's business. See ya.
Amen and amen. God bless you.
Amen.